The ivy weaves through broken flint, the bitter wind begins to rise. Our voices bear the silver tint of coins the ferryman would mint. The altar cloth is torn and thin. The field is white with autumn frost. Forgive the penance and the sin before the winter's breath moves in. Hallowed be the soul, hallowed be the bone. The sparrow nest within the bell. The village path is overgrown. There is no tale for us to tell within this cold and silent shell. The arches crumble to the floor. The swallow flies across the nave. We lock the heavy oaken door and pace the stones of those before. Oh, bring to us the sprig of you. The tide returns to meet the shore. We sing the songs the ancients knew beneath the veil of heavy dew. Heavy dew, cold and the floor is hard against my knees. I haven't felt my feet for hours. The wax is dripping on the woods. The wax is dripping on the wood. I keep I am going now. The tide pulled the timber back down to the bed. I woke with the salt stinging hot in my skin. The rigging was tangled like wire and thread. I looked for the captain and all of my kin. The water was heavy and silent as lead. The voyage is over before we begin. The sand is a pillow for keeping ahead. The rocks are a border where oceans grow thin. I trade in the maps for the hunger on Nift and wash off the copper of where I have been. The words of the living are easily said, while silence is kept in the jars made of tin. Oh, the parsley is damp and the rosemary grows between the white rocks where the seabirds all nest. The wind through the cedar is all that she knows, and here in the silence a sailor can rest. The silver grey tide in the evening flows to put every ghost of the ocean to test. I followed a trail through the rosemary hill. She sat by the fire and mended a sleeve. The morning was quiet and perfectly still. She didn't look up and she didn't ask leave. The kettle was singing a tune for the mill, and water was all that a soul could believe. She offered a chair with a quieted will, the kind of a mercy a man can receive. The labor of living is harder to kill than many a sailor would dare to conceive. I took up the cup and I drank to my fill, and felt the cold anchors of memory heave. Oh, the parsley is damp and the rosemary grows between the white rocks where the seabirds all nest. The wind through the cedar is all that she knows, and here in the silence a sailor can rest. The silver grey tide in the evening flows to put every ghost of the ocean to test. The mercury falls as the autumn turns grey. The compass is broken and lost in the sand. I'll trade every mile for a place I can stand. The distance is nothing but waves in the bay, and home is a border where travelers land. Oh, the parsley is damp and the rosemary grows between the white rocks where the seabirds all nest. The wind through the cedar is all that she knows, and here in the silence a sailor can rest. Silver grey tide in the evening flows, and here in the silence across the granite ridge where the heavy lichen grows. The sky's the color of a bruised and purple plum. Purple plum. I left the warmth of the hearth and the garden rose to find the place where the hidden water flows. My boots are heavy with the clay of the riverbed. The air is sharp with the scent of pine and peat. Pine and peat. I walk among the monuments, silent dead with the sigh head. The water is a pool of hammered dark mercury. It chills the marrow of my shivery on my head. The spring is guarded by a circle of ancient stones. The water is a pool of hammered dark mercury. Dark mercury. It chills the marrow of my shivering brittle bones. See the person that I loved and the life knit Auden raft. I drink a handful of the bitter Iron Draught, the trick of the optics and the way the sun does shards. I catch a glimpse of your sleeve, a flash of white, before the forest yields to the coming of the night. The vision fades into the silt and the rising sand. The woods are indifferent to the hunger in my chest. I reach to touch the phantom, your reaching hand is cold, and suddenly indigo returns to the hollows of the trees. I taste the copper and the salt upon my tongue. I fall to the earth on my trembling, muddy reeds. The secret well is silent now and perfectly still. I leave the valley as the first star begins to wake. I carry the memory against my stubborn will, walking back over the crest of the Iron Hill, the Iron Hill. Hiking through the archaeological decay, wearing synthetic fibers to keep out the damp. I have come to this specific pile of rocks to perform my annual ritual of disappointment. My boots are caked in an ancient sort of mud. The path is less a road and more an insult to the idea of human progress or direction. I feel a great intellectual lead in my chest. It is a secular pilgrimage to a holy hole, searching for validation in the liturgical dread. I do not want the spirit or the bread. I just want to be seen standing in the rain. Amidst the ruins of a failed bureaucracy, the roof fell in during the last social collapse. Now the altar is a canvas for cheap graffiti, vulgar words carved into the face of a saint. It feels more honest than the original intention. I take a chemical tablet to regulate my own. A pharmaceutical intervention for my weary soul. A pharmaceutical intervention for my weary soul. The air smells of wet wool and centuries' regret. I am checking the structural integrity of my ego. Is this the grand revelation I was promised, or just a damp evening in a remote postcode? It is a secular pilgrimage to a holy hole, searching for validation in the liturgical dread. I do not want the spirit or the bread. I just want to be seen standing in the red. The saints are all headless and quiet. sociological crisis of my specific generation. Indifferent, so indifferent. Amidst the ruins of a failed bureaucracy, the infrastructure of faith has a terrible leak. I am leaving now without a single blessing, just a mild headache and a stain on my coat. It is a cue of validation in the liquid or the bread. I just want to be seen standing in the rain. The ruin remains quite perfectly ruined. Perfectly ruined. Perfectly ruined.